Hi guys, my name is Christina and welcome to my channel and welcome to this video. This is the second time I'm doing this type of video and this is basically my drawing year in review, the year of 2021 in review in regards to what I've been drawing this year, what amount of work I produced, just looking back, analyzing, seeing, and just I'm gonna be rolling the clips of me drawing those things that I've been drawing. Obviously, I'm not gonna be clearly rolling everything that I've drawn, but I'm gonna be skipping parts obviously, but I'm gonna be explaining to you what I've been drawing and hopefully it will give you an idea what a comic artist can create within a year. And I wouldn't say I'm the fastest comic artist in the world. I'm alone. I'm creating my own comic. I'm the one who's creating lines. I'm the one who is doing the colors. I'm the one who is writing, scripting, posting it on social media and doing everything. So, and also sometimes I have some other projects coming along and I'm going to be talking about it. Also, I have a day job. I work in VFX industry. I do digital matte paintings for movies and TV shows, basically backgrounds, concept art. A lot of the time when you see green screen, when the green screen gets removed, artists like me comes in and put something in the place of this green screen. I also do branding for my company and I also do quite a lot of freelance. I do VFX freelance, visual effects for small companies, for commercials, for advertisements. And I do like sometimes photography freelance and videography freelance, graphic design freelance, a lot of stuff. So I'm a busy girl. I'm doing a lot of things, but the passion of my life is my comic. And this is the video where I'm reviewing what I've done this year, drawing wise. But I'm giving you this, my day job caveat, so you understand kind of the actual workload that I'm doing. And if I have some freelance that been going on during me drawing something, like drawing my comic, I will let you guys know. So that is more realistic representation of how my drawing year is going. So yeah, let's start talking about it. So in the end of previous video, I was talking about that I was redrawing my older chapters. I was not super happy with the style and overall the style was a little bit all over the place. If you want more details about this, I have a couple of videos where I'm talking about how I'm preparing my comic for publishing, redrawing my comic, and overall if you look the video 2020, the drawing year in review, I'm talking in more depth about it there. Basically, I'm almost done. I almost been done in 2020 with redrawing those pages. However, it's a little bit left to finish for my own peace of mind in 2021. And this one includes for me actually working on the first chapter, because first I redrew chapter 2 and then I redrew chapter 3 and then I came back to chapter 1 and redrew pieces of it. And this is kind of what I'm doing a little bit here, finishing up with shadows. Like this is like some magical creature element situation that I have in my story. I'm redrawing these ones and I'm redrawing foliage for the trees that I decided also to have the same style because the foliage of the trees was drawn in different styles throughout chapters and it would be pissing me off. Full disclosure, I didn't actually finish completely redrawing. I stopped when I finished the worst of it. Chapter 2 on my website is already updated completely. Chapter 2 is completely finished and chapter 1 is completely finished. And all 100% redrawn. There's small touches that I want to do for chapter 3 to completely update it on my website, but it doesn't annoy me that much. So for now I'm doing it in my spare time and it's not like the project like this was when I put my main comic production on pause. Everything was on pause until I redraw this. This is not the situation. Now I'm really doing it when I have time. So this is what I started this year with. And yeah, this is what I was kind of completing, but this was not the big ordeal that it was in the previous year. It just was wrapping up some things. And for now, I'm pleased with what I have. However, those the fact that the chapter 3 is not I didn't update it on the website because I didn't do the final pass and didn't do all the final tweaks. It still annoys me, but it's okay. But now that I'm thinking about it, maybe I should go and redraw it. Anyway, I'll stop thinking about it. Let's go to the next thing that I've been drawing. So the next thing that I jumped on is back to the chapter that I was drawing before going to all these redraws. I was working on chapter 8 and actually I was working on the last scene of chapter 8. Again, if you go and look what I was drawing in the video for the previous year, you will see. And I started to draw this scene and now I'm back to it and I have to finish it. This scene was not the easiest one. It has a couple of difficulties overall. like difficulties. It's not like I was suffering or anything, but it has a couple of things that you have to have in mind. First of all, the lighting changes during the scene, like the sun sets. So you start the scene with this like red, orangey colors, and then as the sun goes down, the scene becomes more blue, and there is a lot of things going on in the scene, like emotionally, let's say. So you have a plot going on where the character is in danger, so he has to figure out what is going on. He put in like objectively dangerous situation in the present moment, but as he's in this situation in the present moments, he's also getting triggered and getting certain flashbacks from his past that are arguably even more distressing for him than whatever is happening right now, because this particular character, his name is Croy, is the guy with long black hair. He has a very dramatic memories, let's say, from his past. Obviously memories, where they're from. So throughout the story overall, it's just almost like him having to face these memories again and having to come to terms with them and having to even accept whatever happened, because now he's acting on in reaction. Like a lot of his action are motivated by what has happened, but at the same time he doesn't really want to digest it. He just want to react to this. So these parts are very important for the character. So during this scene, he at the same time getting like stressed out by the fact what is going on. So basically he is tricked by certain group of people to be forced to fight off the monsters that are called firstborns in the story, and he was not necessarily prepared for it. He doesn't have weapons, so basically they just put him on the spot, kind of like, you do whatever you have to do, or if you cannot do it, these guys can eat you and we don't have to worry about it, at least they will have something to busy themselves with. So he put in this situation. This situation obviously is objective danger that he has to figure out what to do about. But at the same time, he has these flashbacks that not only already stressful for him, they kind of distract him from the danger that he's currently in. So that was a little bit challenging to do, because the readers don't know what is the nature of his memories, like what exactly is he remembering. Obviously, readers get the snippets through these flashbacks, but they cannot yet make out the full picture. And I, more as a writer and a painter for this scene, was concerned that the readers are following and they understand the emotions of this character, so this character doesn't act over emotional, because this is what I would hate. I don't want my character to act extra emotional when it's not justified. It is justified in this case, but it's up to me to really show that it is justified. Like, it's up to me to really make sure readers understand what he is going through. And this was challenging for the scene. And obviously the scene has several people there. Like, every time when the scene has more than 2 people, it's automatically becomes a little bit more challenges, because there's more people to pay attention to, more characters, what they're doing with their body language, like choreograph the characters during the scene. I say choreograph, it's not like I'm doing anything stellar here. And I would say I would love to learn more about choreographing the character movements within the scene. But, I'm doing what I can here. And also there's monsters there, and there is a change of scenery as well, because characters in the beginning of the scene, they start in one location, then they move down the hill towards the forest, and location is slightly different. So this is also because I pre-draw my backgrounds and I kind of strategize them ahead of time to reuse them later throughout the scene. So I draw like backgrounds all the sides ahead, and then I just reuse them. And when the scenery changes, so when the background changes, that I have to think about it. Like, I have to draw more backgrounds, I have to put more thoughts about how the background is going to be changing and whatnot, and especially with lighting scenario changing. That was a little bit challenging about this scene. But again, I'm saying challenging, and it doesn't mean I was suffering, just means that, it needed extra care, extra attention. But yeah, this is something that I was doing, and overall I'm very glad with the scene. However, like, it's still like, I'm still hoping I will only know as the readers read the scene if it does the job that I wanted to do. And then, as I mentioned, this scene has several flashbacks, and this flashback, so the way I treat flashbacks, I like to draw in scenes. So if I have a scene, which means basically the same location, the same lighting scenario, and usually typically the same set of characters, that I consider a scene. Sometimes I would break it even more if, for example, there is a different action going on. For example, you have the same set of characters, but now they're, let's say, now in the first beginning, that like in the beginning they're talking and then they're fighting, so it's completely different dynamic. So I would break it down and call it a scene. And I would draw within that. So I would draw different pages at once and different panels at once out of order, but within the scene. I would not draw scenes out of order, just because each scene demands usually its own set of references and its own set of just overall kind of like strategies that I come up with while I'm creating the scene. So as I'm drawing jacket in this lighting scenario, the more I draw it continuously in the same lighting scenario, the faster I become. But if I'm jumping from scene to scene in a different lighting scenario, in different colors and whatnot, so it's not as fast for me if I'm jumping between. So I'm always stay within one scene. So because flashbacks, if though they're happening technically time-wise in the same time as the main scene is the main scene, but because they have usually completely different colors, completely different location and whatnot, then I treat them as if it is different scenes. So I would draw all the panels, all the pages for the main scene, and then I would jump and would start filling in all the panels and all the pages that are flashback ones. So I drew the whole scene, the whole main scene, as my characters are confronting those firstborns and kind of like talking, what's up. And then I went ahead and started drawing all the flashback scenes that were like panels scattered throughout the main scene. And the flashback scene it doesn't take care about anybody. It's brutal. It takes place in the winter location at night, and it has completely different settings. And yeah, so this one I drew separately, and this was like called like the truly last scene that I drew for this chapter. So this is the one actually was not as easy as I thought. There were a couple panels that were pretty easy. So when I had to basically draw my main character Kuroi there, and I had to draw some other characters, and they kind of were dead, for the lack of a better word. Like, it's unfortunately dead bodies lying on the ground. And then I had to draw a couple of characters, but the scene, the final page, like the final panel of the scene is actually a page size. Like the full page is a panel. So, and it had a lot of details, and that one gave me quite a lot of, not trouble, but it was pretty challenging one. But before I get to go to this, what I like doing while I'm working on the last scenes of the chapter, or like I'm half done with the chapter, I will be drawing lines for the next chapter. And those lines at this point don't have to be perfect, but at least I have to have planned out what will be happening on each page for the next chapter. And like sometimes I draw like literally stick figures for the next chapter. And this is what I will started to do before I even completed chapter 8. So, and I was trying to do a different method for this one. Usually I would script my pages ahead, and then script my chapters ahead, and then I would go and use the script to start drawing according to the script. However, this time I didn't do it this way, and I noticed that this is something that happens specifically when I write this character. When I write my other main character, Sakai, her, I can really just only pants. Like, I cannot plan for her. For Kuroi, I can't, because his line is more predictable, but like I don't want to say like it's in a negative way. At least he is on a path that I can see ahead. Even though with him I still have questions, but at least he himself has a plan of what he's going to be doing. It might be a really terrible plan, but he has a plan and he's going to execute that, and he might change his mind. There might be an obstacle, but overall he has a trajectory and I have a trajectory, and this provides me some chapters ahead of knowing what's going to be happening. With Sakai though, because she's still figuring stuff out, I know, like I have a plan for her storyline for the story, but I don't necessarily, like I don't have, like it's still, there is still a lot of freedom for her to go different way that would be the best of the for the character. So I allow her to do that. So her chapters, when I draw her chapters, it's hard for me to actually push her to do something. It's way more easier for me to let her just be herself and like follow where the character takes me. So her chapters are very difficult to script. Every time I script her chapters, I go back and kind of script them again, script them yet again, or and then when I'm drawing, I like change the script as I'm drawing. This time I decided to try a different thing. I was basically writing as I was drawing. So I would draw first and without putting words in. So actually it's Kentaro Miura's method apparently that I read online that this is what he's doing. What he's drawing the images first and kind of telling the story with the images first, like in my case, and like stick figure sketchy images, and then he lets the text fill in what the images kind of already implying and the dialogue that naturally should be following the images. So this is what I tried to do with her, and that worked wonders. And actually, as I was doing this, I typically, as I'm like laying out the pages, and I listen to the music. I don't listen to podcasts. I don't listen to YouTube videos. I don't listen to words and don't listen to like information because it distracts me, because I have to figure stuff out right now. It's not like just relaxing drawing session where I can listen to other people talk. But this time I actually try to listen to podcasts and whatever, so that it takes my mind that is overthinking away, and I only think with images. I would like purposely fill in like word parts of my brain and like talking part of my brain with somebody else talking through my headphones, and my brain would only create with images. So, and it worked. It was a weird method, but I think for this particular chapter, it really worked really well. So I sketched out the whole chapter during this process, and when I was happy with what I was seeing, I went back to finish the last pages of chapter 8. And now let's talk why those particular pages and particular panels were challenging. And this is the ones that I was mentioning you before that are from the flashback. And the flashback actually reveals quite a lot of information at this point. Flashback reveals a certain event that happened in the past that basically not kickstarted the whole story, but it is very influential for whatever is happening in the story right now. And it has characters present in the story that are very important to the world. It has characters that are called jesters. They're basically elite craftsmen, like I don't know, magic wielders that are like elite circle, private circle of the rule of this world, of the 4 provinces, not the whole world, like, but they call it like the whole world, but it's just 4 provinces, the ruler of this location. And the thing is, these characters have never appeared in the story before, and they're very important later on, and they will start appearing. So I have to show this event with a lot of them present on the screen and show how they kind of act, what they're wearing, how they're looking. All I have to figure out it all for just one page, or 1 page and 2 panels. And I need to, so it's like a lot of world building that I need to do to figure out how the group that has taken space in the world building, and very important for the world building, how this group of people will be looking like, how their uniforms will be looking like, how they will behave, what is the hierarchy, what will be the difference in the uniforms, like what I need to figure it all out. And when I do something like this, like character design, basically that's what it is. I don't like to do some quick work. I like to really think it through, because something like uniform, it really tells you about the world, because uniform represents something. It represents what the character is doing, what is their job, what is their rank. Or like even when their rank, it's how is the rank being depicted in this society? What does it mean? When the clothes are more extravagant, does it represent the rank? Or when the clothes are more practical, does it represent the rank? Like what elements of the clothes? Like for example, you have some, for example, war veterans, they would have medals, or just different people in militia, they will have medals that will show off their achievements. So what is the logic of this world? When people do some accomplishment in some military things, do they get medals? Do they get some certain patterns on their clothing? Like, do they get anything at all? Is it considered something that you should be showing off, or it's not? So you know how a lot of things can pile up when you decide on something that is uniform. And especially this uniform is for location that we haven't been to either. So now we are in something that is called Northern Province. It's basically provinces are like the countries in my fantasy world. So each province has its own rules, its own traditions, its own ideas of beauty, like, and whatever, like, of how clothes should be designed, of how clothes are even used, a monetary system, like they are all very unique. So I'm still figuring out kind of like how person from the village would look in this province, how the person from this town will look in the village, where's the difference between the clothes and hairstyles between people from that side of the province and that side of the province, or how people look like from the main, like, capital city, and how military people look like, how police looks like, how doctors look like how do people let us like work within the society and have take social function within the society, how they do, like how people who are in the position of authority look like. So I'm still figuring out that. And those gestures, those people I figured out on Uniform 4, they're completely from different location. They're not from Northern Province. They are from Kalyanol, and Kalyanol is a city that is ruling the 4 provinces, but it's not assigned to any province at all. Like, think Washington, it's not in any state, right? So that's kinda the point, and it's difficult because I need to at the same time figure out this new concept for this uniform that has to be different that universe that we've seen before, and it has to be looking different than what I drew before, so the reader understands that these people are a little bit something, they're not from here, and overall make the difference visually. So when my readers see these people appear again, they recognize them right away and they understand, they distinguish. So this is kind of a lot of thinking that needs to be done to convey that. And overall, this last page, aside from just uniform world building, figure out so much things for world building. Aside from that, the whole panel is pretty complicated. It has a lot of details, has a lot of characters. We have our main character, Kuroi. We have several of Jesters, tons of firstborns like these monsters. And we have 2 villages in the scene, and we have this massive scenery. And yeah, overall, that was a lot of things to draw, and I wanted to draw them well. And aside from uniforms of gestures and details of the uniforms, I was also drawing snow, and I didn't draw this much snow yet. Like, snow, it's not something that I drew often. Like, let's say I drew way more grass in my life than I did snow. So it was also like something that I need to figure out. It's not like it's hard for me to draw snow. It's just, you have to like decide how you're going to draw snow in the style for the comic, kind of find your footing. And yeah, so that's why these last pages were pretty they were time consuming, they were difficult, but to be honest, I'm very, very happy with the result. I'm very proud, especially of the last page. I really like it. So yeah, very happy with this set. It is time to start the new chapter for my comic. Actually, just kidding. First of all, before I start a new chapter, there's 2 things that I would be drawing and I'm actually just surprised as you because I'm going through my drawing records and I'm seeing what I've been drawing. So I made this video where I was doing like a tutorial when I was talking about how to draw emotions, and I'm a little disappointed that it didn't have as much views that I was hoping for. Not because I think it's I deserve to be so popular, it's just because I honestly think that is a very helpful video for people who want to draw emotions. I go in depth in this video and talk about what group of muscles are responsible for each emotions and what they do, how they contract, what areas of the face responsible for what type of emotion. So I actually go above and beyond in doing that. So I don't know, I feel like it's really helpful video, honestly. But for this video, I already had a drawing of Tsukai that I drew prior in the previous year. So that drawing was done. But after I created this whole video when I was showing what types of muscles are responsible for which emotions, I realized I'm gonna just draw different emotions on Sakai's face, on example face, and I'm gonna record my drawing of me drawing these emotions. So it is kind of like a practical tutorial now. Not only I show how the muscles are, but I take the same face of the same character and draw different emotions, kind of supporting my theory. So I took the drawing that I already did with Sakai just staring blankly into space, and I made her angry and then upset, so I drew this emotion. So this is something that I drew, and it was actually very fun. It was actually very interesting for me to do, and because it was just a demonstration for the video recording, I didn't go and, you know, drew it perfectly in details, because you can't really see that on video. So it was just fun overall. And then before I could jump on another chapter, I had to complete the cover for the chapter 8. So I like to, I draw my covers as a separate piece of art, but I like to draw them in exactly the same style as the comic is. And I like making sure my covers have some sort of information about the story, kind of a little bit of like wink at the audience, and they tell something. A lot of the times, like the characters I choose to put on my covers is usually me saying, hey, this character is important. Hey, pay attention to this character. This character is an important character for the story. Like either this character is going to become POV later, or actually for now, this is just really POV. This just tells you this is going to be a potential POV character. Or there will be later appearing characters that I say that important. So for this cover, I'm kind of like cheating, because this cover has Kuroi. Again, Kuroi appeared on the cover before. Actually, first cover with Kuroi was we see his back, so he's extra mysterious. Then another cover that we do with him, he actually looks at the camera, looks at the viewer. So this kind of like objectively saying, hey, he's for sure a POV, he's the main character. But for this one, this is Kuroi and the pigeon, but Kuroi is not even looking at the audience. Kuroi is listening to the music, the guy is vibing, and but the pigeon on his shoulder, this is who is looking at the camera. And pigeons in my story, they are kind of like sentient, but they're not really emotional beings who have this complex depth to them necessarily. They're very straightforward. They're magical beings, but they're not as humans, like have flaws and whatnot. They're more like straightforward, a little bit like machines, like more like creatures, like more like aspects of nature, aspects of the world, rather than characters, even though they can speak and they're sentient. But are they though? Like, so this is kind of like the premise, and then there is this pigeon that you will see this kind of like, oh, so pigeons, they cannot lie, they cannot hear lies, they're just here to transmit information, they're unbiased, like very emotionless, but like, are they? Like, they don't have agenda, but do they? So it's so this is like a questionable thing, and we start seeing this a little bit through this pigeon. So he is here looking at the camera, and we start seeing some aspects of this pigeon, because this pigeon, in comparison to other pigeon, asks questions, seems to have opinions, and has agenda, or like just, let's say, free will. Otherwise, like pigeons, they more like serve Silanians, like. And in this case, this guy kind of has his own agenda, and like pigeons, even though they're so widespread in this world, they're still very mysterious. Like even Silanians, like inhabitants of this world, don't know much about pigeons. And I just thought it's just overall very fun to do that, because we have a lot of things in our world that we don't really question why is it this way, or like don't really think about too much, because it just serves us and doesn't give you problems. But yeah, but pigeons is something like that. But then we start seeing cracks in this and start learning more about pigeons, because we have Tsukai, who is the character coming outside from this, like outside of this world to this world. So for her, everything's a mystery. But I wanted to also create a mystery for people who are inhabitants of this world, something that I don't know. And this is a mystery that they have to, like, it's a mystery even to them. And there's something about pigeons, and we see some cracks with this particular pigeon. Pigeons overall are important. The first arc of my comic is called Pigeon, so it's extra important, you know, if you're a reader, something to keep in mind. So in this chapter, in this cover, I wanted to show that this pigeon is the one who is looking at the camera. Like, is the pigeon, is the POV, is the pigeon as a character, or it's almost like creates this uneasy feeling like the pigeon knows better, or like, what's up with these pigeons? Why this guy seems to be even more aware on this cover than the main character? I don't know. So that was just a fun cover for me to draw with the colors and everything. I just totally enjoyed it from the beginning to the end. And now it is for real time to jump and start drawing another chapter. Typically, I start my chapters with refining the lines, and because as you guys see, originally they are pretty messy. So what I'm trying to do before starting to work in color, I like to go like with another layer of lines and make sure they're more polished, they're not messy, so they're not interfering with my color work, and they're supporting my color work. So that's kind of the point. I'm not going crazy. I'm not trying to do some beautiful drawing with lines, but it's just the point that they work for me, not against me. And unfortunately, I don't have a recording of this because I was trying to do it on iPad, and I just got iPad Pro, and I really want to utilize it to help me to work on my comic while I'm not on my computer. And so far, I cannot work in color completely there because for some reason, this super powerful iPad Pro that is more powerful than a couple of my first computers that I used to draw my comic were, it still doesn't have a full version of Photoshop, so I don't have access to, split screens. I cannot, have several screens open at once and several comic pages open at once and use color eyedropper tool to get colors. I don't know. So I use that to refine the lines, and it actually worked for refining the lines, so I can sketch on my computer and then I can paint on my computer. But then if I have to go through pages and refine the lines, I can do it on my iPad, even though it's a lot of transferring. I don't know, they're not quite there for some reason. I feel like they're holding back what iPad Pro can do with software, because it definitely hardware can do it. I'm not sure what they're doing. Sorry for this temper tantrum, but so I did this line refinement on my iPad, so I don't have footage of that. But next step that I would do all the time when I would create a new chapter is to create the background. So the first thing that I started drawing for this chapter was the background. I usually like to create like a rough color for the page to kind of estimate what the colors would be for this scene overall. And then I start working scene by scene, and I start with backgrounds, because backgrounds, once drawn, one or two strips of background for the scene will immediately fill 70% of the space on the page. So it immediately will make like all the pages 70% done, because you can just copy paste the background in. So with this background, this is location that I've drawn before, and this is also the time of day that we just had. So we had Kuroi being at night and having like his plot line happening at night. So now we are going to another location, but it's still the same night, and the areas where Croy is and where Juria, this character with red head, is, they're not too far away from each other. It may be like a couple cities away, so it's not like completely different place. So I would assume the weather, or at least the look of the sky, should be pretty similar. So that's what I was trying to achieve. So I actually grabbed the original sky that I used for previous scene that I did for chapter 8 and pasted right here when I started working on the background for Jira's scene. But then I obviously added some more clouds, because obviously clouds cannot spread this long, and but overall the time of day is the same. And then I tried to reuse as much as I could from the previous background as well, because it basically also has like grass and hills and whatnot, and I try to really reuse as much as I can, because it saves a lot of time and a lot of energy, and really you won't tell the difference if I drew the same thing again or I reused it, because it really looks the same anyway. But yeah, I was working on this environment, creating lake, creating hills, enjoying myself. And then after this background was done, I switched to starting working on the characters for the scene. And what is interesting for the characters for the scene, I draw them already, but it was quite a while ago. The last time I drew the old lady in red, it was 3 to 4 years ago. So it was quite a while, and my style changed a little bit. So it was always tricky to try to draw the same character that you drew like years ago. And it was not like years ago for the story. For the story, it was I drew her last time in chapter 4, and now we're in chapter 9, so 5 chapters ago. So yeah, and it's interesting because you have to obviously confine to the updated style that you have now. I don't think I changed style, but I try to draw with more details, with a more polish, like better overall. And it's interesting to revisit. And I added some extra item of clothing to her. I added like this jacketish, sleeveless jacket thing with fur, because I figured she's older and it's north. They have a colder summers, and especially colder summers nights, so it makes sense for her to add that. And then Juria, I drew Juria in chapter 5, and I really missed her. Like, Juria was one of my favorite characters. She's really this responsible, very serious girl. She takes everything very seriously. She really wants to help. She really wants to do it right. I really like her. So it was really lovely to get back to her. But the thing that was interesting about the scene is I had to do a bunch of kind of spirits and souls flying around. In the story, they called hoverers. It's basically when somebody dies, the way it works in this world, the land kind of takes the bodies in, like you have like this flowers that kind of grow over the body and kind of sucks the body into the ground. And you have this, it's arguable, it's not really the soul, but like there's something left of the person that's called a hoverer. It's like the bright glowing image of a person that's just hovering above what the body was, or actually above where the flowers are. And it always is very important culturally for people in this world. It's kind of like a gravestone. It's like a different relationship with death that they have, and the way death presents itself. So in this scene, it's kind of like an aftermath of the whole village being massacred, and because of certain plot reasons, the hovers didn't come back for 10 years, so people would just died, and for some reason, like the thing that the world usually does didn't work on the bodies, and only now they're returning. So this old dark thing from the past kind of resurfacing, and I had to draw a lot of these hoverers that are hovering around, and because every time when there is a lot of something in the scene, this time that it takes to draw the scene bloats immediately, and I try to pre-draw, and I like to reuse as much as I can. But there's also hoverers, and there were people who are gathering flowers, because it's also like one of the traditions. They gather flowers and they keep them, kind of like a remembrance of a person. So I had to draw the hoverers, and I had to draw the people for one scene who are gathering those hoverers. And there's another panel where these people kind of walking away, and I had to draw the same people. So it's just overall was drawing a lot of extras. So basically that's what it is. So it was a nice challenge, and again, drawing something that I haven't drawn before, like, and it's interesting every time you draw like extras or some elements of the world that are not necessarily front and center. It's very interesting because they don't seem to be that important, because they're not appearing loud and proud on your pages, and they're not necessarily the point of the plot or whatnot. But I feel like the background elements and the extras, like extra characters, they can really help to build the world without reader actually noticing that you are doing a world building. You, by the way, what people are wearing, what they're doing, you can really, you know, tell more about the world, like all these juicy details, because I feel a lot of the world building and culture building is about details, with how people behaving, what are they doing with their body language, how they interact with things. So yeah, that was very interesting to draw. And overall, this scene it has these challenges. It took me quite some time to draw this scene, also because for several panels I had to draw the city, like not the city, like the village of Flower and Tor on the back, and obviously also there's a lot of glowing building, so it again took me some time to draw. Like there's a lot of details that I needed to pay attention to and draw through. So but after that was finished, so this scene also, like what this scene does is kind of transition. So I broke the scene in my mind kind of in two scenes. There's a scene where Jury is talking to her grandmother, and they're standing on top of the hill and watching down to the Lake of Fall, and they see all these people, all the hoverers gathering the flowers. And then the scene transitions because the grandmother leaves, the people who are with the hoverers leave, and Juria comes down to the lake. And then now Juria is surrounded by all the hoverers. So Juria kind of changes location, and I call it still a mini scene. So I drew this block separately, and also there's pigeon appears and Jury interacts with the pigeon. So this kind of where the scene transitioned a little bit. I really enjoyed drawing that. I enjoyed the ambiance. I enjoyed drawing the close-ups of her face. I don't know, it was a very quiet moment, and I thought it would be a nice breather before like storm hits again. So, and also there is a scene within a scene, and as you guys already know what I mean by a scene is different location, different character, like different color scheme, like different stuff altogether. And it can be flashback, or in this particular case, she's actually Juria communicating with somebody else in another location. So Juria is being in the small village of Flower and Torn, and she's communicating with someone from Pentakar, which is the central city, like almost the capital of the north, this humongous city. And this is where the real trouble started. Oh my god, if you've been following this channel, you saw me drawing that and saw me watch me talk about this. So basically, the amount of panels that I spent with the other character, her name is Ryla. I decided her name will be Ryla because originally her name was Raya, and then Disney messed it up for me when they came with a movie that is called Raya. So her name is Ryla, and there's just a couple of panels with her. tops there is 4 pages where she appears, and not even full of, like, not 100% of each page is filled with her particular scene. So there's just a little bit of her, but she's standing, and obviously because I thought, that's the thing, that's why I also like drawing in like parts. So when I finish line part and then go to color, I don't go back and change lines, because on the level of lines, I don't think I'm going to be doing this. That's why my lines really serve the story. But when I go to color, I'm like, oh my God, now I have to paint all of this. And I like to kind of create this for myself, because if I were having like thoughts of colors in mind when I was doing lines, I would probably do more conservative shots. I probably would make sure they're not too hard, like I'm not creating a lot of trouble for myself, and then my comic would look boring. And that's why when I'm drawing colors, I'm not allowing myself to go back to lines to simplify things. I really have to do whatever I set up to do. In this particular case, because Julia was talking to somebody from completely another location that we've never seen before, and this location is super important, and the part of this location, like this location is also like tells a lot about the world. It's a really impressive location. There's this huge fantasy city with a lot of skyscrapers, and it's very colorful, it's very rich, it has a lot of ceremonial things in there. Like we don't even get to see all of it, but we get to see the glimpse. So when I was drawing lines, I made it so we get to see this epic preview of the city, and it just looks so epic, it's so awesome and whatnot. So that's kind of where my mind was at the time. So now that I have to draw it, I had to pre-draw a background, and the background that I had to pre-draw was this humongous city with like hundreds of buildings, and I was like, oh my God. So I spent almost a month drawing this background. I obviously was drawing it probably took me like a month total to draw this 4 pages, but it took me so long to draw just the background alone, because there was so many buildings, and background we see is front and center, and then we see it on the side, and we see it on another side. So I was like just totally cruel to myself, and I was setting it up so you see everything. And it's also kind of like the same idea as with drawing uniforms. You have to decide a lot of things about world building if you want to draw like a city like we've never seen before, because the city is important. It's going to be a plot point later in the story. It's going to be a centerpiece during the climax on the first arc. And that's why when I'm drawing these buildings, I have to think about the culture of the city, how these buildings work, how they're organized, how the streets work, who lives in these buildings, what does the building represent, what does the look of the building means, why the windows of the building is round, why the roofs are so tall, how does the light distributed between the buildings, because obviously in like in normal cities, we have wires, we have telephone wires, we have, I don't know, whatever the hell, light, internet, electricity wires, whatever the hell, we have that stuff that's connected. We can see in the cities, like with the skyscrapers, we see smoke coming out the, like, is it smoke? Like you can see like from the boiler room stuff comes out from the rooftops. You can see how buildings operates and can get like glimpses of how they potentially might be operating from just looking at the city. So this is something that I had to do for a very major location for just 3 panels. I have to think the whole thing through. And I was also aware that I wouldn't be able to do this and think the whole thing through, but I tried and I did whatever I could and gave myself kind of like way to elaborate later on. So it took forever to draw this city, and it took so much time, and I was so tired, and I was so like, I'm very proud of how it looks like. I'm actually super proud. I think I did a fantastic job, honestly. I'm sorry to blow my own horn, but I mean, good job me, honestly. That's just a big piece. And in the end, because the background is so massive, when you add it to the panels, I think this particular pages just looks so detailed. I'm just looking at them like, oh my God, they look so good. They look so high quality. So, and then, but also I was a little pissed because it took me like so much time to draw this background, and I could only use it for 4 pages, and I will never be able to use it again because like next time we see the city, there will be different time of day, different location of the city probably. So yeah, I don't imagine myself reusing that. So my thought is to reuse it for the cover, because every time I have to draw a cover, and the cover has to be fully drawn for the chapter, and I figured, why draw a brand new cover and just go from scratch if I have this wonderful background that is already a major centerpiece, that already can get interesting head about the world, and I can use the character of Ryla and put her on the cover as well, overseeing the city, kind of like snatch the panel that I already drew, add more of the background, and then have this as a cover. It fits the chapter, like it fits the mode of like just hinting of more characters to come and more locations to come. And yeah, I don't have to draw much. I already did all the work, and at least I can, this background that I worked so hard for, I can reuse even more for the cover. So that was something like a strategic move that I did, and I was very, very happy I did that. So yeah, now I have a cover for chapter 9, and I'm very pleased. I'm very pleased with this chapter overall. And then after this intervention scene was done, I got back to the original scene when the Juria is sitting next to the lake. And I left a couple of pages for last because, again, we have this mini scene transitioning. So basically, Juria gets another pigeon and another message, but from her cousin, whose name is Gorbam. And he is letting her know that there are like intruders, not like intruders, but there's like people that are arrived to the village that want to talk to them, and these people are very high profile. So it's like setting up this, oh, the trouble is in the horizon type of situation. And because Gorbam he's sending her this pigeon, but he's in a different location around the village. And even though background and everything is pretty much the same, it's not quite the same. It's not quite the same angles, and the set of characters is different. Now in this scene, we have Gorbam, we have another Juria's cousin that I actually don't remember the name. She has a name. The name was said in chapter 4, but I don't remember it right now. And really, it's not important. And we get Dohaya, her grandmother, returning. And we have these 3 new characters that are being introduced. So it's kind of like a scene, like a sister scene. It's very, very similar, but a little bit different. It needed a little bit of a different setup. So I left this one for last for this kind of block. And yeah, it's gonna have this. Thank God I did this uniforms for previous chapter, because now I can reuse them. And for the gesture character, for these 2 new characters appearing. But overall, this one took me quite a lot of time. And during November, I was actually in UK, so that was the time. Like this, currently we're in November, by the way, guys. Sorry, I just letting you know. So it took me quite a while to work on the comic, because I was traveling, and traveling during these times, like a lot of hectic. You have to do a lot of things, a lot of tests, prepare everything, like, and also work was extremely busy at my actual work. And yeah, during summer I got extra, like almost second job at my day job. So now I will be doing branding and graphic design and managing the branding for the company. So that it's kind of like a big deal too. And now, because of that, every time I go to any, like I'm traveling or I'm going to any vacation, I have to like bulk prepare work for my day job, and bulk prepare work for my Patreon and stuff like this, and for YouTube. So I have to prepare quite a lot. So because I was doing that, November was very dry month for for drawing. And so that I drew just 1 page. I have this spreadsheet where I put how many pages I drew per month, like objectively how many were drawn. And then I have this chart when I put like which pages are done for the scene. Like I have the list of pages, and I put like done to next to one of them when I'm done, just to see my progress and see my speed, and just keep track on something. I don't just go. I keep track of that. So yeah, this last panel that is almost like a page long, it took me quite a while to draw as well, just because of all the grass and just reorganizing the elements from the background that I drew from the previous panel. So that concludes this block of the comic, and now I will be going to the next scene of the comic that also had like a couple of sub scenes, but overall is just Sekai and the older lady that she met in previous chapter. They're traveling through the Guron forest, and they are encountering this monster that is called Firstborn. Again, this guy's just not letting my characters live their life and have a good time. And this is basically how the scene starts. And I'm not going to be telling you how the scene ends yet because I will not be showing it here. And as of recording of this video, now is December 31st, I drew quite a lot of pages for the scene. I'm very happy. I just before jumping on the recording, the last bit for this video, I finished page 27, and I'm very, very happy. I did quite a dent in this chapter, and yeah, I just wonder how many pages did I actually draw for it. Let me actually take a look. I drew 9 pages for the scene already, and I'm very, very pleased. And overall, as of now, chapter 9 has, let's see how many chapters. Chapter 9, so without the cover, is 34 chapters for chapter 9. So it is amazing. I'm very, very proud of myself. So for the last bit that I drew this year, and I know because I'm not planning to draw today anymore, so I just finished the page, and I'm going to be preparing for the new year celebration, uploading this video, finishing this video, and whatnot. But this scene, so the point, I will be talking to the scene on the separate video as well, but idea of the scene is that Tsukai and this older lady, they're traveling through this forest, and the forest is extremely dense and extremely dark, and they're being chased, they're noticing that they've been followed by this firstborn that starts shooting arrows at them, and Tsukai is kind of having a crash course in using some basic elemental magic in this world, like using the wand, which is like a weapon in this world, and she's having this crash course that she has to learn how to do this soon to not get them killed. And the point of the scene is that it goes from them being in complete pitch darkness, and then you have this flashes of magic that Tsukai is doing that are illuminating everything, and they have this creature following them, and the creature's kind of ambiguous gray color that it kind of takes the colors of the surroundings around it. So in this particular case, it's gonna be like pitch black with bluish colors as the night and in the forest, so only the glow of this creature's eyes can give this creature away. So it's just, the scene goes from I see absolutely nothing to wow, everything is illuminated. So I felt like it could create this weird feeling of feeling almost so comforted by the darkness, but at the same time knowing that there's danger around. So it's like this weird feeling of like I feel relaxed but also uneasy, but it's very eerie and very like weird. This is a weird situation. So this is how I wanted to proceed with this chapter. And yeah, the background, I pre-drew the background. I had four parts to the background of this scene. So I had like the tonal look or from one and another side of the road. So because the trees are so dense, you don't kind of see through the trees. And at the same time, I have a couple of side shots of the trees that I pre-drawn. And sometimes, obviously, every time I reuse the background as the scene progresses, I have to tweak it a little bit. So we had the feeling that, you know, the carriage that they're using is actually moving forward. So this is something that I had to do. And overall, the fun part about the scene was to create this magic and let my characters, like, I finally used the magic, and it was super fun. I have this whole magical element that I created a while back for the shield that is called Seidel, and it's something that I'm reusing. So for magical elements, I decided to pre-create them and reuse them so they're consistent, so you understand which magic is that, so I don't rely on necessarily on my drawing again and again and again, so it looks different, and it takes a lot of time to draw something like this. So I figured I just create the pre-drawn element as well. So for this scene, it was just, you know what, if I have to use one word to describe the scene, I would say jeans, because I feel like in this particular scene I mastered drawing of the jeans, because the guys were in jeans, and her jeans were giving me trouble from time to time, because jeans are, because they wrinkle so much and they have this complexity of colors in them, they can be a little bit tricky to draw, and I always found them difficult to draw. But in this particular scene, I feel like I really enjoyed drawing the jeans. I totally loved it. It was really fun. The jeans and the hoodie, that was the point of the scene, is drawing that, and obviously a lot of Tsukai's reaction phase that are always pleasure to work. And also the firstborn, the creature, it appears a little bit, but every time I draw them, I try to add this eerie feeling to them, that they look like creatures, but on some angles they have this human features. and on other panels they absolutely have no human features. They like look so weird, like you don't know if you should sympathize with them because they're like you, or feel freaked out because they're like you, or at the same time you realize they're not like me at all. So, and they also like look like chondras, like another race in my comic that you saw, like, for example, Juria from the previous panel, was like all the characters in my story that you see have tails and pointy ears. They kind of related to these monsters and creates this whole bag of disaster for the society, and like whatever the hell is going on right now in the society, it's not good. But yeah, so that's, I wanted to always, like, through this creature, remind that they do look like chondra, and I also wanted to remind they do look, there's certain features that reminds of Kuroi, of the character that you saw from, it seems, earlier, the guy from long hair, because he has the same kind of type of tail as them. Most people have very short tails and with very small, how do you call it, like a fur patch on the back, and his tail is a little bit different, that looks more like this creature's tail. And that's kind of like, I'm hinting on something, and I hope like people seeing that there is a similarity, but they don't know what exactly that means. And yeah, so that's something that I'm doing and having totally complete fun. So by the time I'm recording, I finished page 27. I almost finished all but 2 pages for this kind of sub scene while they're in this forest. Later on, they will be like getting out of the forest more in the open and confronting the creature more seriously. So that is not drawn at all. And this is kind of like the final stretch of the comic. And this is probably, before getting to that, I will have to do the line work for chapter 9, because chapter 9 is not yet ready. Like, I still think about it. It's almost kind of half concept. I'm pretty sure what's happening there. I just have to draw it. So this concludes what I drew this year, you guys. So thank you so much for watching. I hope this video was interesting. I hope it, has some value. And yeah, I also wish you very happy new year, and really hope that the next year will be good, will be happy for all of us. And I do astrology, so I know this next year will be still challenging, but on the personal level, it might not be, actually. Like, January seems to be like a good month, and with a lot of interesting things. So I really hope the best for you for the year to come, and I'm excited for more videos and more fun that we can do next year. So thank you so much, guys, for watching. Again, if you want to read my comic, you can read it online for free on the link down below, or if you want to support me on Patreon and help me in my endeavors, I would really appreciate it. We have absolutely lovely community there. Link is down below as well. So thank you so much, guys, for watching, and I hope to see you in my next one. Thank you so much, guys. Bye.